Ready to dive in. Today we're tackling Mindset, the New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. This book really shifted how I think about, success and what it takes to achieve it.
You know, it's interesting. So many people, they hit a wall, encounter a challenge, and just sort of freeze up. Dweck's research really dives into why that happens, exploring this idea of mindset.
And it's like some people, they see a challenge and think, nope, I'm not cut out for this. They believe their intelligence, their talents are like fixed, unchangeable.
Exactly. And that can be so limiting. Dweck found that the people who really thrive, who embrace challenges and push their own boundaries, they have this different mindset. They see their abilities as well.
Almost like muscles, right? You have to exercise them, push them, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes, to help them grow stronger. Dweck saw this early on, actually, just by watching how kids reacted to tough puzzles.
Oh, that's a great story. Instead of getting defeated, the kids who believed they could become smarter, they actually got excited by the challenge.
Fascinating, right? Totally. It makes you rethink that whole nature versus nurture debate. Are we born with a fixed capacity, or can we actually change our potential?
Well, and that's where things get really interesting. Dweck argues it's not one or the other. It's this really complex interplay of our genes and our environment.
So it's like we have this blueprint, our DNA, but then our experiences, our choices, all of that, it's like we're, adding layers to the design.
Yes, that's a great way to think about it. And get this, even Alfred Binet, the guy who created the IQ test, he didn't believe intelligence was fixed. He thought it could be developed through, learning and effort.
Wow. Okay, so let's unpack these two mindsets that Dweck talks about, fixed versus growth. What does it actually look like to have one or the other?
So with a fixed mindset, it's like you have this internal script. Maybe it tells you, I'm not good at math, or I'm just not a creative person. And anytime you hit a bump in the road, it confirms that belief.
Oof, yeah. It's like those setbacks become evidence for a limiting belief you already have. Our listeners are probably familiar with this feeling. I know I am. Have you ever had an experience, maybe at work, where it just made you question your ability to succeed?
And that's so different from a growth mindset, right? With a growth mindset, you're still going to experience setbacks. You might even feel frustrated, but you're less likely to see it as like a personal failing.
It's more like, okay, that didn't go as planned. What can I learn from that?
Exactly. You're focused on how can I improve, not why am I not good enough? And that makes all the difference.
It's like that whole I'll never be good enough feeling. Oh, it can be paralyzing.
And that's where the growth mindset comes in, right? It's not about denying those negative thoughts completely, but it's about how you respond to them. Dweck actually uses a great example in the book. She talks about having a bad day. You know those days where it's like everything that can go wrong does go wrong.
Oh, tell me about it. Like you spill coffee on your shirt 5 minutes before a big meeting. Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly. So Dweck describes this scenario. You get a C+ on a test, then a parking ticket, and to top it off, a friend seems distant. Just, one of those days.
The worst. So how would someone with a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset deal with that kind of day?
Okay, so someone with that fixed mindset, they might start to spiral. See, I'm not smart enough, or I always mess things up, or even nobody really likes me. It's like those setbacks become proof of their perceived flaws.
And those negative thoughts, they just get louder and louder.
Exactly. But with a growth mindset, it's like putting on a different lens, right? So yeah, you might feel disappointed by those same events, maybe even frustrated. But instead of internalizing those setbacks as personal failures, you're more likely to look for the lesson.
So instead of saying, I'm a failure because I got a C+, it's more like, okay, clearly my study habits aren't working. What can I do differently next time?
Exactly. And that's a game changer because now you're taking control. You're not just a victim of your circumstances. You're an active participant in shaping your own outcomes.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that this difference in mindset, it even affects how accurately we see ourselves.
Really? So you're saying people with a growth mindset, they have a more realistic view of their strengths and weaknesses?
That's what Dweck's research shows.
Yeah.
You'd think that someone with a fixed mindset who's so worried about appearing smart or talented that they'd be better at, sizing themselves up.
I guess that makes sense, yeah. But if you're constantly afraid of looking bad, you're probably not going to admit when you've made a mistake or ask for help when you need it.
Exactly. It's like the self-protection mechanism that backfires. But with a growth mindset, there's this openness to feedback. Even criticism can be valuable because it offers an opportunity to learn and grow.
That's so interesting because I think we often associate a growth mindset with being like super positive all the time, but it's really about being honest with yourself, right? Both the good and the bad.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of something. Howard Gardner, The guy who came up with the theory of multiple intelligences, he said something really interesting. He noticed that highly successful people, they tend to have this knack for recognizing their own weaknesses just as much as their strengths.
It's like they have this clear-eyed view of themselves, and that allows them to play to their strengths, but also, work on the areas where they need to improve. It's about recognizing that nobody's perfect, and that's okay. It's like they say, right? What doesn't kill you
Makes you stronger.
Right. It's not about being perfect. It's about having the guts to mess up, to fall flat on your face sometimes, and then, dust yourself off and figure out how to do it better next time.
And that's the beauty of the growth mindset. It really does change how we see those inevitable bumps in the road. They're not failures. They're feedback.
And each one is a chance to learn and, like you said, grow. It's like that saying, I'm not there yet, but
I'm getting there.
Exactly. One of the things that really struck me about Dweck's book is that it's not just about identifying these mindsets. It actually gives you tools, strategies to shift your thinking.
That's what makes it so powerful. It's like, this isn't just how the world works, but here's how you can work within it, even change it. Makes you wonder what we could do if, say, we taught all kids to think this way from the get-go.
Oh, wow. Imagine that. What kind of potential would they unlock? Definitely gives you something to think about, right? And if you're as intrigued by this whole mindset thing as we are, Dweck's book is a must-read.
Mindset, the new psychology of success. Couldn't recommend it enough.
And as you delve into it, maybe ask yourself, what could you achieve if you really embraced the power of yet? That's it for today's deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time, keep those minds open and keep growing.